Hey guys, tonight we're going to dive into a story that feels less like a historical event and more like a twisted sequence of improbable accidents. We're talking about the assassination that didn't just kill a man, but effectively killed an entire era, the murder of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. It's one of those moments in history where a series of bizarre coincidences, small mistakes, and sheer bad luck all came together to ignite a world war. Honestly, if you were a time traveler trying to prevent it, you probably would have been more confused than effective, running around trying to stop a series of absurd blunders. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you in the comments. It's always wild to see how many of us are drifting off together from all corners of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're a citizen of Europe in the year 1914. The world around you feels tense. It's not a palpable screaming tension, but more like the low thrum of 100 different violins, each one just slightly out of tune. You're a young person, living in a time of unprecedented change. Technology is exploding, cars are replacing horse-drawn carriages, and airplanes are taking to the skies. It feels like the future is here, right on the doorstep. But under all that progress, there's a deep, simmering unease. The continent is a political and military puzzle, with powerful nations locked into a web of alliances. It's a game of chess played on a massive scale, and every piece is a country with its own ambitions, grudges, and fears. You can feel it in the newspapers you read every morning. The headlines are full of stories about nationalism, about one country's pride clashing with another's. Germany is a rising industrial powerhouse, flexing its military muscle and building a navy that rivals Great Britain's. France is still smarting from its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War and dreams of reclaiming lost territory. Russia, a massive and unwieldy empire, sees itself as the protector of all Slavic peoples, and Austria-Hungary, your home, is a sprawling multi-ethnic empire, a patchwork quilt of different nationalities held together by the aging Emperor Franz Joseph. It's a fragile state, and you can sense that a single tear in the fabric could unravel the entire thing. One of the more famous facts about this period is the sheer number of formal alliances. It's a detail that often feels a bit dry, but it's the key to understanding how everything went so wrong, so fast. The Triple Alliance links Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. The Triple Entente, a counterbalance, links France, Russia, and Great Britain. It's like a high-stakes, geopolitical version of a schoolyard standoff. If one kid pushes another, their friends are obligated to jump in. The whole system is designed to maintain a balance of power, but it's so tightly wound that it actually makes a small conflict almost impossible to contain. A seemingly minor incident in one corner of Europe could, and would, drag everyone else into a massive war. You're not a world leader, just a regular person. You're living your life, going to work, and maybe dreaming of a better future, but you can't help but feel this low-grade anxiety, this sense of waiting for something to happen. The world feels like a room full of people holding lit matches, each one of them standing on a different pile of dry kindling. You've heard the whispers, the rumors. There are radical groups in Serbia, a small nation to the south, who believe that Austria-Hungary's control over its Slavic territories is an injustice. They dream of a greater Serbia, a unified nation of all South Slavs, and they see your empire as the main obstacle to that dream. Historians still debate just how much the general populace was aware of this ticking time bomb. Was it a constant, daily fear, or was it a background hum that most people simply tuned out? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. For you, it's a concern, but it's not the only thing on your mind. You're worried about your own life, your job, your family, But you can't deny that the air feels charged, like a storm is brewing just beyond the horizon. It's a feeling that makes you want to pull your coat a little tighter, to turn up the collar and walk a little faster. One interesting detail that gets lost in the big picture is the role of technology in shaping this tension. The telegraph and telephone, while a massive leap forward, weren't nearly as fast as modern communication. This meant that when a crisis hit, there was often a delay in getting accurate information to the right people. Rumors could spread unchecked, and decisions were sometimes made in a vacuum, based on incomplete or even false reports. It's a detail that reminds you that even with all the progress, the world was still operating in a state of semi-darkness, where a lot of what was happening was hidden from view. And that brings us to the Archduke. He's the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, a man named Franz Ferdinand. He's not a particularly popular figure, known for being stubborn and having a famously difficult personality. He's a reformer, a man who believes that the empire needs to change to survive. He has a plan to create a more federalized system, one that would give the Slavic peoples more autonomy. But this plan is viewed with suspicion by many, especially by the hardline nationalists in Serbia, who see it as a threat to their dream of a unified South Slav state. For them, a successful reform could make Austria-Hungary more stable and make their own ambitions impossible to achieve. So you have this perfect storm of a situation, a continent full of nervous nations with a web of alliances, a fragile empire with simmering internal conflicts, and a radical nationalist movement in a neighboring country. It's a powder keg, and all it needs is a spark. You're a citizen, living in this tense, beautiful, and terrifying world. You don't know what's coming, but you can feel it in your bones. The world is holding its breath, and all it takes is one small, seemingly insignificant event to make it all come crashing down. The low thrum of political tension has followed you all the way to Sarajevo. You're not a world leader or a diplomat. You're just a young man or woman, maybe a university student, visiting the city. The year is still 1914, but the atmosphere here feels different. More charged, more immediate. You're a tourist, a traveler enjoying the sights and sounds of a vibrant, multi-ethnic city, the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, a territory recently annexed by your home, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The city is a beautiful and confusing mix of cultures, a place where minarets and church spires stand side by side. You've heard the whispers, the rumors of unrest. You know that not everyone is happy about the annexation, but the city itself seems calm enough on the surface. The streets are bustling with people. The cafes are full of men arguing over politics and playing chess. And the air is filled with the smells of roasting meat and strong coffee. It's all very normal, very peaceful. But if you look closer, if you listen to the right conversations, you can feel the undertone of anger, of resistance. The young men in the cafes, the students at the university, they're not just arguing about politics. They're talking about freedom, about nationhood, about the injustice of a foreign power ruling their land. One of the more famous facts about this period is the sheer audacity of the assassination plot. It wasn't a secret operation. It was a conspiracy hatched by a handful of young, radicalized students in a city teeming with police and military presence. This is a detail that often gets overlooked in the grand narrative. The assassins weren't grizzled, professional killers. They were idealistic, slightly reckless young men, full of nationalist fervor and a romanticized view of martyrdom. They were students, poets, and dreamers. And they were about to become murderers. You don't know any of this. Of course, you're just a tourist, enjoying a beautiful day. You're sitting in a cafe, sipping on a cup of thick, sweet coffee, and you're watching the world go by. You see a group of young men in a corner, their heads bent together in intense conversation. They're talking in hushed tones, their eyes darting around the room, their hands gesturing wildly. They're not just discussing politics. They're discussing a plan, a deadly, terrifying plan. This is a little-known detail about the conspiracy. The assassins didn't have a high-tech communications system or a secret headquarters. Their plans were often discussed in public places, in the very cafes and restaurants that tourists like you were enjoying. They were so confident in their cause, so sure of their purpose, that they didn't even bother to hide their conversations. They believed that their mission was a sacred one, and they were willing to die for it. The leader of this group, Gavrilos Princip, is a young man with a serious, almost severe face. He's a Serbian nationalist, a member of a secret society called the Black Hand. This is a callback to our earlier discussion of radical groups in Serbia. The Black Hand is a shadowy, militaristic organization that believes that violence is the only way to achieve a greater Serbia. They are a product of the political climate of the time, a violent reaction to the perceived injustice of a foreign power ruling over their people. You don't know any of this. Of course, you just see a young man with a serious face, talking to his friends. You see them leave the cafe. Their face is a mixture of excitement and fear. They're not going home. They're going to their final positions, their final moment of preparation. They're going to become a part of history, and you're going to be an unwitting witness to their deadly plan. Historians still debate the true extent of the Black Hand's involvement in the assassination. Was it an official order from the organization? Or was it a rogue operation carried out by a few radicalized young men? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The Black Hand provided the weapons and the training, but the decision to carry out the assassination was made by the young men themselves. They were the ones who were willing to die for their cause, and they were the ones who would ultimately pull the trigger. The day of the assassination is tomorrow. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand is coming to Sarajevo, and he's going to be riding in an open-top car, a symbol of the empire's power and confidence. But you know, or rather, you're beginning to feel that something is wrong? The air is still charged, but the low thrum of tension has turned into a high-pitched whine. The city is full of police and military, a heavy, oppressive presence that feels more like a sign of fear than a sign of security. You can feel it in your bones. Something is going to happen, and you're going to be here to witness it. The coffee shop is a distant memory, and the low thrum of tension has now turned into a palpable, screaming tension. You're no longer just a tourist in Sarajevo, you are a young, radicalized nationalist, a member of the Black Hand, and you're standing on a street corner with a gun in your pocket. The year is still 1914, but the world has become a different place, a world of life or death decisions, of patriotic duty, and of a terrifying, exhilarating purpose. The air is thick with the scent of fear, of sweat, and of the promise of revolution. You're a member of the Mlada Bosna, or Young Bosnia, a group of students and revolutionaries who believe that violence is the only way to achieve a united South Slavic state. A greater Serbia, the Black Hand, a shadowy militaristic organization we mentioned before, has provided you with the weapons and the training. You're not a professional killer, not a cold-blooded assassin. You're a boy, a student, a poet, and you're terrified. Your hands are shaking, your heart is pounding in your chest, and the weight of the gun in your pocket feels like 1,000 pounds. The leader of your group, Gavrilo Princip, a boy of 19, is standing next to you. His face is a mask of determination, his eyes burning with a fierce, unyielding fire. He believes in this cause with a religious fervor, a passion that has consumed him and the other boys around you. You look at them, at their young, serious faces, and you see a reflection of your own fear, your own doubt, your own resolve. You are all here for the same reason: to kill a man, to kill an archduke, to kill a symbol of an empire that you believe is oppressing your people. One of the more famous facts about this plot is the sheer number of assassins. There were not one, but 7 young men placed along the Archduke's route. This detail is often glossed over, but it speaks volumes about the desperation and the lack of a clear plan. They were not a professional hit squad. They were a group of young men, each with a weapon, each with a different level of resolve. and each with a terrifying, unknown future. It was an act of political theater, a desperate attempt to make a statement that you know, in your heart, will be heard all over the world. A lesser-known detail that is both tragic and absurd is the quality of the weapons you've been given. The pistols are old, rusty, and prone to jamming. The grenades are a new kind of bomb, but they are also notoriously unreliable. You've been given these tools of death, these symbols of your purpose, but you know, in your gut, that they might not even work. You can feel it in your hands. The cheap, poorly made metal, the flimsy, unreliable mechanism. It's a detail that reminds you that this is not a movie, not a professional operation. This is a group of young men with poor equipment in over their heads, trying to change the world with a few rusty guns and a lot of blind faith. Historians still debate the true level of professional training the assassins received. Were they truly trained by the Black Hand? Or were they just given a few hours of instruction and sent on their way? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The Black Hand provided them with a basic level of training, a few lessons on how to use a pistol and a grenade. But they were not seasoned killers. They were still boys, and they were still a long way from being a professional killing machine. They were a product of their time, a group of young men who were radicalized by a cause that they believed was worth dying for. You're standing on a street corner, your heart pounding in your chest, your hands shaking. You can hear the distant sound of a marching band, the sound of a parade, the sound of the Archduke's entourage. The plan is simple, or so you've been told. You're to wait for the car to pass, and you're to throw your grenade if you fail. The next assassin will try, and so on until the job is done. The plan is a testament to the chaotic, almost desperate nature of the plot. It's a plan that relies on a series of unpredictable events, a series of lucky breaks. It's a plan that you know, in your heart, is likely to fail. But you're here, and there's no turning back. You're a member of the Black Hand, a soldier in a war that has not yet begun. You're a boy with a gun in your pocket, and you're about to become a part of history. The world is holding its breath, and all it takes is one small, seemingly insignificant action to make it all come crashing down. You're the one who will provide that action, the one who will pull the trigger, the one who will light the fuse. The world is about to change, and you're going to be the one to change it. The tense, electric atmosphere of Sarajevo is no longer a silent hum. It's a roaring, celebratory clamor. You're not a nationalist or a tourist. You're a member of Archduke Franz Ferdinand's entourage, a minor official, and you're standing on the main street of Sarajevo. The day is June 28, 1914, a beautiful, sunny day, and the air is filled with the sound of music, the sight of fluttering flags, and the cheers of a crowd that seems, at least on the surface, to be genuinely excited about the Archduke's visit. You're a part of the imperial procession, and you're watching the Archduke's car from a few feet away. He's sitting in a large, open-top limousine, a brand new, six-wheeled vehicle that seems more like a piece of rolling sculpture than a car. He's wearing a full military uniform, his chest covered in medals, and he's waving to the crowds with a stiff, formal smile. Next to him is his wife, the Duchess Sophie, a woman who is not of royal blood, but who he loves dearly. She's also waving to the crowds, her face a mixture of excitement and unease. This is a well-known fact of the assassination. The Archduke and his wife were riding in an open-top car, a decision that seems, in hindsight, to be a monumentally foolish one. But at the time, it was a symbol of confidence, a way to show the people of Sarajevo that the empire was not afraid, that it was in control. It was an act of political theater, a way to project an image of strength and stability. As you move down the street, you can't help but notice the strange, almost jarring mix of reactions. The official, prearranged crowds are cheering, waving flags, and shouting "Zivio long live." But in the back rows, in the shadows of the buildings, You can see a different kind of crowd. These are the young men and women with serious faces, with eyes that are burning with a fierce, unyielding fire. They're not cheering. They're watching, waiting, their hands clasped behind their backs. You can feel their anger, their frustration, their palpable sense of injustice. One of the more unique details about this moment is the strange mix of pomp and security failures. The security detail is there, a small group of police and military officials, but they are hopelessly outnumbered and poorly organized. They are more concerned with crowd control than with protecting the Archduke. The route of the procession was publicly announced, a detail that was meant to build excitement and anticipation, but that also gave the assassins a clear and unobstructed view of their target. It's a detail that, in retrospect, seems almost unbelievably reckless. Historians still debate the true level of responsibility for this security failure. Was it a simple case of incompetence? A lack of resources? Or was it a deliberate act of sabotage? A way to ensure that the assassination would succeed? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The security was clearly inadequate, but there is no evidence of a deliberate plot to allow the Archduke to be killed. It was more likely a result of a combination of hubris, incompetence, and a general underestimation of the danger. As you move down the street, the procession slows down, and you can see a young man on the side of the road. He's not cheering. He's holding something in his hand, a small, dark object that he's trying to hide. You can't see what it is, but you can feel it in your bones. Something is about to happen. The low hum of tension has reached a crescendo, a high-pitched whine that is deafening in its intensity. You can see the fear in the faces of the other officials, the confusion in the faces of the crowds, and the determination in the face of the young man with the dark object. This is the moment that you've been dreading, the moment that you knew, in your heart, was coming. The world is holding its breath, and all it takes is one small, seemingly insignificant action to make it all come crashing down. You're a part of the Archduke's entourage, a witness to a moment that will forever change the world. The sun is shining, the flags are fluttering, and the sound of music fills the air. But under all that noise and color, you can feel the cold, hard hand of fate, and you know, with a terrible certainty, that it's about to close its grip. The cheering crowd is a blur of faces, and the vibrant music of the marching band is a distant roar. You're a young Gavrilo Princip, but you're no longer just a conspirator. You're an actor in a play that is about to turn deadly. The Archduke's car is a few feet away, a large, beautiful, and ridiculously vulnerable target. The air is thick with the scent of flowers, of gasoline, and of a metallic tang that you know, with a terrible certainty. Is the scent of a new kind of history being made? You see your fellow conspirator, Nedeljko Čebrinović, a boy of 19. Take a deep breath. His face is a mask of determination, his eyes burning with a fierce, unyielding fire. He raises his arm, a small, dark object in his hand, and he throws it. The object, a bomb, tumbles through the air, a slow, terrifying arc that seems to last for an eternity. The crowd screams, a mix of fear and confusion, and the Archduke's car speeds up, trying to get away. The bomb bounces off the back of the Archduke's car. A lucky break that seems almost too absurd to be true. It's not a direct hit. Not a fatal shot, it's a near miss. A moment of pure, unadulterated chaos that could have ended the entire plot right there. The bomb lands in the street, under the next car in the procession, and it explodes with a deafening roar, a shower of shrapnel and glass. The sound is a physical thing, a punch to the gut that sends a wave of panic through the crowd. This is a well-known fact of the assassination. The first attempt was a complete failure, but what's often overlooked is the sheer level of incompetence and bad luck that surrounded it. The bomb was a new kind of weapon, and the fuse was not as reliable as it should have been. The Archduke's car was a brand new model, and its open top and low speed made it a perfect target. The fact that the bomb bounced off the car and exploded under the next one is a detail that seems almost too improbable to be true. You're a witness to all of this. You see the chaos, the panic, the screaming, the running. You see the Archduke's car speed away, and you feel a wave of despair wash over you. The plan has failed. Your mission, your purpose, your reason for being here has all come to nothing. You feel a sense of confusion, of a mission left unfulfilled. The world is a loud, chaotic mess, and you're a small, insignificant part of it. Historians still debate the true level of coordination among the assassins. Were they all a part of a cohesive plan? Or were they a group of young men, each with their own ideas and their own sense of purpose? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The plot was a chaotic, almost desperate affair, and the first assassination attempt was a perfect example of that. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated chaos. A moment that could have ended the entire plot right there, but it didn't end there. As you watch the Archduke's car speed away, you see your fellow conspirator, Nedeljko Čebrinović, being captured by the police. He's beaten and dragged away, a small figure in a sea of uniforms. You feel a sense of fear, a sense of hopelessness, and a sense of resolve. The mission is not over. The Archduke is still alive, and he's still a symbol of an empire that you despise. You and the other conspirators melt into the crowd. A group of young men who are now a part of a failed plot. You're a ghost in a world of chaos, and your purpose is now more determined than ever. The first attempt has failed, but the world is still holding its breath, and all it takes is one small, seemingly insignificant action to make it all come crashing down. You're the one who will provide that action, the one who will pull the trigger, the one who will light the fuse. The world is about to change, and you're going to be the one to change it. The deafening roar of the bomb has faded, and the chaos has given way to a new kind of pandemonium. You're not a nationalist or a conspirator. You're a young police officer in Sarajevo, and the street is a scene of pure, unadulterated madness. The Archduke's car has sped away, and the procession has dissolved into a terrified, chaotic mob. There are screaming people running in every direction, and the air is thick with the smell of smoke, the sound of shattered glass, and the wails of the injured. Your training has taught you to deal with riots, with civil unrest, but nothing has prepared you for this. The first assassination attempt has failed, but it has created a new kind of crisis. The city is no longer a place of celebration, but a place of fear. The Archduke is still alive, but he's no longer a symbol of confidence. He's a symbol of vulnerability, a target that a group of radicalized young men has tried to kill in broad daylight. This is a well-known fact of the assassination. The first attempt was a complete failure, but it was a crucial turning point. It exposed the massive security failures of the entire operation, and it created a sense of panic and chaos that would ultimately lead to the second fatal attempt. The security plan had completely unraveled, and you, a small cog in a massive machine, are a witness to the complete breakdown of order. You're a police officer, and your job is to restore order, to protect the Archduke, and to find the conspirators. But you're hopelessly outnumbered and out of your depth. The streets are a maze of terrified people, and the conspirators have melted into the crowd, a group of ghosts in a city of fear. You can't tell the difference between a panicked tourist and a cold-blooded assassin. The world is a blur of faces, and you're trying to make sense of a world that no longer makes sense. One of the more unique details about this moment is the strange, almost absurd decisions that were made in the aftermath of the bombing. The Archduke, in a fit of rage and frustration, insisted on continuing his tour of the city. He refused to be seen as a coward, and he insisted on visiting the injured in the hospital. It was a decision that was born out of a sense of pride, of duty, and of a stubborn refusal to be intimidated. But it was also a decision that would prove to be a fatal one. Historians still debate the true level of responsibility for this disastrous decision. Was it the Archduke's fault for being so stubborn? Or was it the fault of his officials for not being able to talk him out of it? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The Archduke was a powerful, domineering figure, and his officials were too afraid to contradict him. It was a combination of hubris, incompetence, and a general lack of a clear plan that would ultimately lead to the second. Fatal attempt. You're a police officer, and you're a witness to this complete breakdown of order. The Archduke's car, a symbol of the Empire's power, is now just a battered, damaged vehicle, the crowd. A symbol of the Empire's support is now just a terrified, chaotic mob. The security plan, a symbol of the Empire's control, has completely unraveled. The world is a loud, chaotic mess, and you're a small, insignificant part of it. You know, in your gut, that this is not over. The assassins are still out there. A group of ghosts in a city of fear. The Archduke is still a target, a vulnerable symbol of an empire that a group of young men has sworn to destroy. The world is holding its breath, and all it takes is one small, seemingly insignificant action to make it all come crashing down. You're a police officer, a small cog in a massive machine, and you're a witness to a moment that will forever change the world. The sun is shining, but the world has become a very dark place. And you know, with a terrible certainty, that it's about to get even darker. The sirens are wailing, and the air is thick with the dust of shattered glass and the smell of fear. You're a police officer, but you're no longer on the main street of Sarajevo. The Archduke, in a fit of rage and stubborn pride, has insisted on continuing his visit. The plan has changed. The procession is no longer a parade, but a frantic, haphazard dash to the town hall. You're a part of the motorcade, a small figure in a sea of uniforms, and you're racing through the city, trying to keep up with a man who seems determined to tempt fate. This is a well-known fact of the Assassination the Second. Fatal attempt was the result of a series of bizarre, almost comical errors. The Archduke's car, a brand new, six-wheeled vehicle, has taken a wrong turn. The driver, a man named Leopold Loika, was not a Sarajevo local, and he didn't know the city streets. He was supposed to follow a prearranged route, but in the chaos of the moment, he took a wrong turn, a small, insignificant mistake that would ultimately change the course of history as you race through the city. You see the Archduke's car stop? It's a moment of pure, unadulterated confusion. The driver has realized his mistake, and he's trying to back up the car, to get back on the right route. The car stalls, a small mechanical failure that seems almost too absurd to be true. The Archduke and his wife are sitting in the car, a pair of helpless, vulnerable targets. The world is a loud, chaotic mess, and they are a moment of still, terrifying calm in the center of the storm. And then you see him, a young man, a boy, a ghost in a city of fear. He's standing on the street corner, a few feet away from the stalled car. He is Gavrilo Princip, the leader of the conspirators. The boy with the fierce, unyielding fire in his eyes, he's standing there, frozen, a look of shock and disbelief on his face. He's not supposed to be here. He's supposed to be in a cafe, drowning his sorrows after the failed assassination attempt. But fate, in its cruel and ironic way, has brought him here, to this exact moment, to this exact place. A lesser-known detail that seems too cinematic to be real is that Princip had just left a sandwich shop on the corner. He had given up on the assassination, and he was getting a snack. He was standing on the corner, feeling defeated. When he saw the Archduke's car stall a few feet in front of him, it was a moment of pure, unadulterated luck. A moment that a group of historians still debate as the most consequential coincidence in modern history. Was it fate? Or was it just a bizarre, improbable series of accidents? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. You're a police officer, and you're a witness to all of this. You see Princip raise his arm, a small, dark object in his hand, a pistol. You see him take a deep breath, and you see him pull the trigger. The shots are a deafening roar, a sound that seems to last for an eternity. The Archduke and his wife fall back in their seats, a pair of still, lifeless figures in a car that is no longer a symbol of power, but a symbol of death. The world is holding its breath, and all it takes is one small, seemingly insignificant action to make it all come crashing down. You're a police officer, a small cog in a massive machine, and you're a witness to a moment that will forever change the world. The sun is shining, but the world has become a very dark place. And you know, with a terrible certainty, that it's about to get even darker. The world, for a moment, falls silent. The roaring chaos of the street, the wailing sirens, the terrified screams of the crowd, it all seems to fade into a distant hum. You're Gavrilo Princip, a boy with a gun in your hand, and you're standing over the car. A pair of still, lifeless figures in a pool of their own blood. The air is thick with the scent of cordite. The acrid, metallic smell of a gun that has just been fired. Your heart is pounding in your chest, a deafening drumbeat that seems to be the only thing you can hear. You've done it. You've killed the Archduke. You've killed the symbol of an empire that you despise. The world, for a moment, feels like it's holding its breath. A brief, terrifying pause before a new kind of history begins. You're a boy, a student, a poet, and you've just become a murderer. Your hands are shaking, not with fear, but with a strange, exhilarating mix of terror and triumph. You've done what you set out to do, and the world will never be the same. One of the more unique details about this moment is the strange, almost absurd, circumstances of the shooting. The Archduke was wearing a jacket that was so tight that it constricted his breathing, making it harder for him to survive the gunshot wound. His wife, Sophie, was a woman who was not of royal blood, and her death, in a way, was an act of tragic coincidence. She was sitting next to her husband, a pair of helpless, vulnerable targets, and she was the first to die. A small, sad footnote in a story that would forever change the world. You're a witness to all of this. You see the Archduke's car? A beautiful, ridiculously expensive vehicle, now just a bloody, damaged mess. You see the Archduke and his wife, a pair of still, lifeless figures, now just a pair of forgotten footnotes in a history that has just begun. The world is holding its breath, and all it takes is one small, seemingly insignificant action to make it all come crashing down. You're a boy, a student, a poet, and you're a part of a moment that will forever change the world. The sun is shining, but the world has become a very dark place. And you know, with a terrible certainty, that it's about to get even darker. Historians still debate the true motive behind the assassination. Was it a simple act of nationalism? A way to create a greater Serbia? Or was it a more complex, ideological act? A way to spark a revolution that would topple the old empires? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The assassins were a group of young men, each with their own ideas and their own sense of purpose. They were a product of their time. A group of young men who were radicalized by a cause that they believed was worth dying for. You're a boy, a murderer, and a symbol. You're a part of a brutal, unforgiving machine that is about to tear a continent apart. And your only purpose now is to face the consequences of your actions. You've seen things that no child should ever see, and you've done things that you will never forget. You are a part of the lost generation. A generation of boys who were stolen from their homes and their childhoods and thrown into a world of violence and death. The only thing that keeps you going is the memory of the life you once had. A memory that is both a source of strength and a constant, agonizing reminder of all you have lost. The silence that followed the gunshots is short-lived. a moment of stunned disbelief gives way to pure, unadulterated chaos. You're no longer a conspirator or a police officer. You are a diplomat, a young man working in the Austro-Hungarian embassy in a neighboring country. The year is still 1914, but the world has become a different place. A place of frantic communication, of hurried meetings, of a sense of impending doom. The news of the assassination has just reached you. A single, terse telegram that has set in motion a chain of events that will forever change the world. The assassination of the Archduke and his wife is not just a murder, it's a political crisis of the highest order. The telegram is a shock, a moment of pure, unadulterated terror. You can feel it in the air. The sense of a world holding its breath. The reaction from your superiors, the diplomats and military officials around you, is a mix of rage, shock, and a strange, almost surreal sense of purpose. This is it. This is the spark that will light the fuse. This is a well-known fact of the assassination. The immediate aftermath was a period of intense diplomatic activity and a cascade of reactions. The first reaction from Austria-Hungary is one of pure, unadulterated fury. The Archduke was a symbol of the empire's power, and his assassination is an attack on the very heart of the state. The blame is immediately placed on Serbia, the small neighboring nation that is home to the Black Hand, the diplomatic community. Your world is a whirlwind of meetings, of telegrams, of a sense of a world spinning out of control. One of the more unique details about this moment is the strange, almost comical, miscalculations that were made. The German Kaiser, a man named Wilhelm II, is in a state of high emotion. He promises to support Austria-Hungary in whatever action they take against Serbia, a move that is now known as the blank check. It's a detail that, in retrospect, seems almost unbelievably reckless. It was a promise of unlimited support, a promise that would ultimately drag all of Europe into a world war. You're a diplomat, a young man in a world of old men and old grudges. You're a witness to this complete breakdown of order, this complete breakdown of reason. The world is a loud, chaotic mess, and you're a small, insignificant part of it. The telegrams are flying, the meetings are endless, and the sense of impending doom is a physical thing, a weight on your chest that makes it hard to breathe. Historians still debate the true level of responsibility for this disastrous series of events. Was it a simple case of incompetence, a lack of communication, or was it a deliberate act of sabotage? A way to ensure that a war would begin? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The assassination was a spark, but the tinderbox was already there. A world of nervous nations with a web of alliances. A world of old grudges and new ambitions. The assassination was not the cause of the war, but it was the trigger. The one small, seemingly insignificant action that made it all come crashing down. You're a diplomat, a small cog in a massive machine, and you're a witness to a moment that will forever change the world. The sun is shining, but the world has become a very dark place. And you know, with a terrible certainty, that it's about to get even darker. The furious telegraphs and diplomatic meetings have faded into a silent, haunting echo. The world you once knew is gone. The tense political landscape of 1914, the intricate web of alliances, the simmering nationalist passions, it all came crashing down. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, that one moment of violence in a quiet street in Sarajevo, became the spark that ignited a global conflagration. You're no longer a diplomat, a conspirator, or a citizen. You're a historian, a man or woman looking back on a world that was forever changed by a single, tragic event. The assassination led to a series of escalating demands, ultimatums, and mobilizations. Austria-Hungary, with Germany's blank check of support, issued a harsh ultimatum to Serbia when Serbia failed to meet all the demands. Austria-Hungary declared war. The dominoes, as they were always destined to, began to fall. Russia, the self-proclaimed protector of the Slavic peoples, mobilized its army in support of Serbia. Germany, in response, declared war on Russia and its ally, France. Great Britain, honoring its alliance with France, declared war on Germany. The world, in a matter of weeks, had been plunged into a war of a scale and brutality that no one could have ever imagined. This is a well-known fact of the assassination. It was the trigger for World War I. But what is often overlooked is the sheer level of human suffering that followed. The war was a brutal, industrial conflict of trench warfare, machine guns, and poison gas. It was a war that killed millions, a war that toppled empires, and a war that forever changed the way we think about conflict. The world that emerged from the ashes of the Great War was a world of new nations, of new ideologies, and of a new, terrifying reality. You're a historian, and you're a witness to this complete breakdown of order. The Archduke's assassination was not the cause of the war, but it was the trigger. The assassination was a small, seemingly insignificant action that made it all come crashing down. The world that you once knew is gone, and in its place is a new world, a world of new nations, of new ideologies, and of a new, terrifying reality. Historians still debate the true level of responsibility for this disastrous series of events. Was it the assassin's fault for pulling the trigger? Or was it the fault of the diplomats and leaders who failed to de-escalate the crisis? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The assassination was a spark, but the tinderbox was already there. A world of nervous nations with a web of alliances. A world of old grudges and new ambitions. The assassination was not the cause of the war, but it was the trigger. The one small, seemingly insignificant action that made it all come crashing down. The world you once knew is gone. And in its place is a new world, a world of new nations, of new ideologies, and of a new, terrifying reality. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was a small, tragic event, but its consequences were immense. A testament to the fact that a single, insignificant action can, in a world on the brink, change everything. The sun is shining, but the world has become a very dark place. And you know, with the terrible certainty, that it's about to get even darker.